Hello, everyone. Welcome to the College Admissions Collaborative highlighting Engineering and Technology Virtual College Fair. My name is Krista, and I'll be your facilitator tonight. We are so excited to welcome Boston University and have them host their information session with us here. So just a few housekeeping items. Your camera and microphone are turned off. You are muted and your video is off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. But don't worry, you could still use the Q&A feature to ask questions to the presenters at any time. You can also sign up for more sessions and check the schedule on our website to see when they're being offered. And as always, a recording will be available for this at the end at strivescan.com/cachet.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Chris Down, and I am one of the Associate Directors of Admission at Boston University. Thank you all very much for joining us today to learn more about BU and specifically some of the opportunities available to students who are really interested in STEM fields, science, math, technology, engineering. Now, to help us today for about the next 45 minutes or so, three of my colleagues from Boston University are here to talk about their programs in a little bit more detail. So we have Dan Tyberski, who's the Assistant Director of Undergraduate Programs in our College of Engineering, as well as Melissa Nesbitt, who's the Academic Programs Manager from Computing and Data Sciences, as well as Elise Brown, who's a Manager for Outreach and Communication from BU Spark. I'm also joined today by one of my colleagues in admissions, Sarah Thompson, who's a Senior Assistant Director of Admissions, who will be off camera, but monitoring the Q&A feature throughout. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to submit them through the Q&A feature. Sarah will respond to you through Q&A, but we'll also queue up some questions for the end of the presentation. So feel free to send and submit your questions at any point. Now, I'm going to start by talking for about 10 minutes or so about Boston University, generally and broadly, before we get into some of these more specific programs. And then I'll kick things over to my colleagues. So I will start by sharing my screen and give you some, generally speaking, Boston University is a large, urban, private teaching and research institution built in a strong foundation in the liberal arts. We host about 16,000 undergraduate students coming from all 50 US states, as well as over 100 countries around the world. And these students are taking advantage of about 300 different academic programs housed within our 10 undergraduate schools and colleges, which occupy about a 1.25 mile stretch of Commonwealth Avenue right in the city of Boston. Through the BU Hub, our general education program, students are able to explore a broad array of topics while building skills and fundamental intellectual capacities to help them become better thinkers, scholars, as well as citizens. Now, you may be here today because you're interested in health sciences, computer science, engineering, perhaps our 7-year accelerated medical program. But if you major in those areas, you can absolutely take classes outside of those fields. And academic flexibility is certainly one of the hallmarks of BU's academic experience. About 75% of our students have some sort of double program, whether that's a double major or major and a minor, or pursuing a dual degree program, which would be a double major housed within 2 different colleges on campus. Now, as a teaching and research institution, that spirit of discovery is fostered by our academic flexibility, is on display in every single day. In fiscal year 2021, we invested over $500 million in research funding across the university. And that research included very topical projects, like the one run by Professor Welenaeus in our School of Public Health, which looked at Google data to determine policies to best promote social distancing in the early days of COVID-19. Or our Needle Lab, which received nearly $2 million in additional funding, working with live copies of the coronavirus. And undergraduate students are absolutely able to engage in research. Our undergraduate research opportunities program has about $1 million of research funding specifically for undergraduate research. Students could use that funding to purchase materials or equipment that they may need. Could be students who need funds to cover travel expenses if their research takes them outside of the United States or outside of the Northeast. And we've had students receive living stipends if their research keeps them in the city of Boston on campus throughout the summer. And research is one tremendous way to work closely with faculty on campus. And our faculty at undergraduate level is incredibly impressive, boasting MacArthur Fellows, Fulbright Scholars, members of the Academy of Arts and Sciences, and many others who have received some of their field's highest honors. Even given the size of BU and the caliber of our faculty are incredibly accessible to U students on campus. The average class size at Boston University is about 27 students, and our student to faculty ratio is 10-1. And you'll find opportunities to connect with faculty inside the classroom, outside the classroom, and around campus. Now, that campus is an incredibly residential community for students. As I mentioned earlier, our campus itself occupies about a straight line, basically a long, narrow rectangle along Commonwealth Avenue in Boston. We're about a 10-minute walk from Fenway Park and about a 15-minute train ride to Boston Common in the city. Now, Boston is a really unique, incredible place to be a student. Boston hosts about 300,000 college students each year, and the city is basically tailor-made for college students with enough restaurants, parks, concert venues, museums to keep you very busy throughout your years as an undergraduate in Boston. Now, as I mentioned, BU is an incredibly residential campus. We do require that all of our first year students live on campus, and that we do guarantee housing for all 4 years for undergraduate students. And in a city like Boston, that's a pretty unique, pretty special benefit. Right now, about 75% of our students do live on campus, taking us up on that guaranteed offer of housing for all 4 years. And that really does lend itself to a very close-knit campus community and does impact all areas of student life. Now, that student life includes nearly 500 student-run clubs and organizations, from Greek life to religious and cultural organizations on campus. About 10% of the student-run clubs and organizations on campus are based in the arts, music groups, theater groups, dance groups. So you may want to maintain an interest in the fine arts while studying engineering or biomedical or biochemistry or something along those lines, and you can absolutely do that on our campus. Our students have committed over 1 million hours of community service pledged to the city of Boston, as well as participating in sports. We have 23 Division I varsity sports on campus, all with very loyal fan followings. Certainly ice hockey on our campus is the most high profile of those, but all of our varsity sports have loyal fan followings, in addition to club sports and intramural sports on campus. Now, that close connection with the city of Boston does facilitate a number of experiential and professional opportunities outside of the classroom. And BU has several programs to encourage innovation and career exploration under our Innovate at BU initiative, as well as the Center for Career Development. Now, U.S. News and World Report ranked BU the 27th most innovative university on their list, spurred no doubt by the resources in Build Lab, our on-campus collaboration space and information center, or BU Spark, which Elise will speak about in a few minutes. And the city definitely facilitates internship opportunities for students. Typically, about 92% of our graduates completing at least one internship before they graduate. And that firsthand professional experience directly contributes to high job placement rates among our graduates, with 94% of our graduates in a job or grad school within 6 months of leaving Boston University. Now, internships can be completed within the city of Boston, but it's also one option for students through our study abroad programs to complete internships abroad as well. We have over 80 programs in 30 cities around the world. BU Study Abroad has a wide variety of options for students. And students can study abroad, take advantage of internships or research programs abroad, regardless of your major. All students have the opportunity to study abroad. And it's one of the major ways that our students are able to gain a truly global perspective through their experiences at Boston University. Now, with all of that serving as sort of a backdrop for opportunities available to students, I want to talk and have our panelists talk in a little bit more detail about their programs on campus. So at this point, I'm going to turn the program over to Dan Tyberski, Assistant Director of Undergraduate Programs in the College of Engineering. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to get a chance to talk about the College of Engineering at Boston University with you guys. So at the College of Engineering, Boston University, we have 3 engineering departments, a biomedical engineering department, electrical computer engineering department, and a mechanical engineering department. And under those departments, Chris, if you'd advance, we have 4 majors that you can choose from: a biomedical engineering major, computer engineering and or electrical engineering in the computer engineering department, and then a mechanical engineering major. And then there is a specific concentration in mechanical for aerospace. So you can focus that mechanical engineering degree even a bit more. And then from there, we have additional concentrations beyond aerospace that any major can do: energy technologies, manufacturing, nanotech, tech innovation, which is a concentration in which we partner with the Questrom School of Business here at Boston University, in which you take classes at Questrom and learning how to take your engineering products to market. All of these concentrations fit directly into the curriculum. It takes no additional coursework to complete them. You do them in the same amount of time if you were just a pure biomedical engineer or a pure computer electrical engineer. And then lastly, interwoven into our curriculum broadly is an overall foundations in data science and data-driven coursework. Not so much as what you'll hear from my colleague Melissa in a little bit, but we have data science kind of interwoven into our engineering curriculum because that is where the world is technologically headed, and we want to take you to there. If we can advance from here, I just want to talk about what the first 2 years as an engineer might look like for you. You'll note that all engineers, I hope you like math, because all engineers do quite a bit of calculus, 4 semesters of mathematics and Calc 1, Calc 2, multivariate and differential equations. You will also do quite a bit of lab science. Everyone does at least 1 semester in chemistry. Our biomedical engineers will do 2 semesters of chemistry and a couple semesters of physics. If you could advance, Chris, I'd like to just highlight that yellow kind of block in the middle of the screen. Sure, it shows our sort of core engineering curriculum. All engineers, regardless of your major, are going to take programming. Everyone's going to do mechanics. Everyone's going to do circuits. Everyone's going to do some design. And we do that for a number of reasons. One is that engineering is a team sport. You are not just going to find yourself in the classroom, nor in the lab once you're out in the field and working, or in the boardroom with just people who were a computer engineer or an electrical engineer. You're going to find yourself in rooms with all sorts of engineering professionals, and we want you to be proficient in speaking the language of engineering. You need to know some mechanics, even though you're a computer engineer. You need to know some programming, even though you're a biomedical engineer. So we make sure that you get a flavor of all of that. And also, I mentioned at the top that we have 4 majors, but in fact, there's a 5th major that you can enter the College of Engineering at, and that is as undeclared. So you can come in with no particular engineering major selected, and you've got 2 years to choose a major. And also, as any of the declared majors, you have 2 years to change your mind. And because we've built our curriculum in this way, you don't have to go all the way back to the beginning and start over. Another thing I'd like to just highlight is that freshman advising seminar. You'll see it right in the top of that first semester. All engineering freshmen take this course. It is co-led by a full-time engineering faculty member and an upperclassman peer leader. And that full-time faculty member who leads your freshman advising seminar will be your faculty advisor for the next 4 years. So on literal day 1 of college, you are going to meet the faculty member who's going to be helping you get into grad school. It's going to be helping you pick your internships and apply to jobs later on. So we're kind of building a mentorship into the curriculum right from the very beginning. And then Lastly, Chris, if you could just move on, I'd just like to highlight that in that first 2 years, we also provide some balance. Everyone's going to do some required college writing courses. I know if you're an engineer, you probably love writing, but I promise you it's important. It's important for your professional life moving forward. And then some of these, you can see hub electives. These are courses for which you can start to fulfill some of Boston University's general education curriculum along with the rest of the courses that you're doing for engineering. So you're doing your science, you're doing your engineering courses, but you're also getting a chance to do some electives that round out that education. And then as the last thing I wanted to point out, just because Chris talked about it, is study abroad. Engineering, we have specific engineering study abroad, many of which kind of focus on that fourth semester, that second semester of your sophomore year, in which you can, as an engineer, study abroad and actually intern abroad. We've built it into our curriculum. So if it's something that's interesting to you, we've built a program for it. So with that said, I'm going to pass the mic over to my colleague, Melissa Nesbitt, who's going to talk to you about computing and data sciences. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa. I'm the Academic Programs Manager for the Faculty of Computing and Data Sciences, and I'm excited to be talking with you this evening. If you could advance, Chris, to the next slide. So the Faculty of Computing and Data Sciences is commonly referred to as CDS, and it's the newest academic unit at BU. We as a unit are interdisciplinary in nature, and our mission is really to create the space for collaboration in computing and data sciences across all academic disciplines at BU. And while we're new, we have several new core faculty who work specifically with CDS. We have around 30 founding faculty members who've helped to establish the academic unit, and they remain really closely involved with its work and its development. And they come from all over BU's different schools and colleges, different departments. Departments as varied as computer science to earth and environment to sociology and more. And the CDS undergraduate data science degree program is a rigorous program, but it is designed to be accessible for all students, regardless of whether or not you have a ton of exposure to college level mathematics or any programming as you start your academic journey at BU. The degree really covers the foundational, the integrative, the applied, and the experiential aspects of data science by focusing on the different math and statistics and algorithms and software engineering concepts that are really relevant to working with data, and especially working with large and complex amounts of data. So as a data science student, you're going to be using foundational tools from computer science, from math and statistics, to really present data and be able to tell stories about it. You won't get the same sort of disciplinary depth that lies with a department like computer science. But like I mentioned at the top, you're going to draw on the application of relevant disciplinary tools, like certain programming concepts, to answer real world questions about data. And to give you just a couple of examples, a data science student really isn't going to have the same depth of understanding of how an operating system works in the way that a computer science student might. But you're still going to use that platform and those tools in your work. And another example, there are going to be certain algorithms that a data science major is going to rely on. So you'll need to know how to write code to use those algorithms. And by knowing how to do that, this allows you to focus on what that algorithm can do for you with the data that you're working with. And things like teamwork and making an impact and ethical considerations are parts of data science that are just as important as the more technical pieces. So by default, you're, as a data scientist, you're sort of at that crossroads of data and technology and different industries. So it's about collaboration. It's about learning how to combine different skill sets to work together to solve a problem. There are also more opportunities than ever for data scientists to get involved with social issues and work on projects that have a social impact. And that's a huge part of CDS's mission as a whole. We really focus on the mission-driven aspects of computing and data sciences, and how you as a data scientist, how your impact is tied to your ability to sort of work with data and answer questions with it. Data collection has become vital to nearly every part of our lives. So things like fairness, privacy, and representation in data have emerged. So a big part of this program is also the ethical aspects of working with data. You'll learn not only how to keep private data secure, but also how to recognize and eliminate biases in data, and how to incorporate values like justice and equity into your work with data-driven technologies. If you could advance, Chris, to the next slide. So the bachelor's degree in data science requires you to complete a minimum of 128 credits. That's pretty standard. And then 64 of those are counting toward your data science major. We only have one major at this time, just that major in data science. And on this slide, you'll see the different requirements for the major in data science. You'll take 14 4-credit courses that cover mathematical and computational foundations of data science, the data science core subject areas, as well as data science electives. So with the electives, you choose a particular track. If you take the methodology track, you're really focusing more on those foundational capacities of data science. Whereas if you select the in the field track, you're really taking courses that allow you to apply what you've already learned to a specific industry or a specific area of study. You'll also complete a capstone experience, which is, there's several different ways that you can do this. You can participate in a supervised project that's part of a practicum course, which is supported by Buspark, which I'll throw to my colleague Elise in a second. Or a supervised project that you pursue as part of an internship or a directed study under the supervision of a faculty member. And then those final 4 credits to meet your 64 can be any course that satisfies CDS requirements. So once you finish the foundational and the core courses, you really have a lot of opportunities to sort of be flexible and take courses that are really specific to your areas of interest. And aside from the major, we will soon be launching an undergraduate minor in data science. That gives students from other majors across the university the opportunity to engage with computing and data science core subject areas. If you could advance, Chris. Really quickly, just to touch on advising, we have a one-to-one advising model with a dedicated undergraduate academic advisor who will give you guidance on the degree program and major requirements, how to select your courses, how to engage with experiential learning opportunities, and then meeting those higher level, university level requirements in order to graduate. And I've mentioned experiential learning several times, and it's super important to data science in general, but very important to CDS. So I want to just pass it along to my colleague Elise, who works with Buspark to talk more about experiential learning.
Hi, everyone. It's so wonderful to be with you here today, and I'm so excited to talk to you about Buspark. So we help students discover their passion, and we are all about being a tech incubator and experiential learning lab. So what does that mean? So let's talk about the experiential learning part. So through course credit or non-campus paid internships, students apply their tech skills to real-world technology projects from industry and nonprofits. So for example, we have a great collab going on right now called the Justice Media Collab. So journalism students and computer science students are coming together, working with partners like the Associated Press, NBC, CBS, working on these investigative stories, digging into data that I myself, I was a journalist for about 10 years. I know that journalists have trouble understanding figures. And so the data science students and computer science students are really able to pull all that information together in a way that'll show what stories can potentially come out of that. And so they work together with journalism students and really produce some amazing quality work. So we also have innovation, our innovation fellowship. So that's through a structured innovation curricular experience or paid internships, cross college fellows working groups on problems on behalf of humanitarian organizations. And also our innovation fellows there, they just blow me away all the time with every semester with what they work on. One of my favorite projects was called Laurelad. So as you may know, there are so many beautiful languages spoken around the world. Well, a lot of them are dying out. So students said, hey, we want to figure out how we can keep track of these different languages. So they came up with a project, an app that actually tracks all of those languages. So Also, not everybody has an idea that they want to bring to life. Sometimes they want to work as a teammate on a project, which is great. So they can still be a fellow and work on a project. And there's also folks who are in the fellowship who work on UX and UI, and we have a wonderful partnership within the university with graphic design to help students really bring that to life in a beautiful way. Inclusion and community. Spark is all about community. We care about our students, as the whole university does. We really want to support one another. So a big part of inclusion and community is the Ignite Student Council. So those are all different student leaders from computing organizations across campus. So we bring them together monthly to do leadership training, find out how we can collaborate on projects, and also do diversity, equity, and inclusion training. So that's really wonderful to see, students really talk about things that are going on in the world and solve problems. And another big one was, of course, we've been virtual for quite a bit of time, and we were trying to figure out how do we still build a sense of community, especially amongst our first year students. So what we did is we had a virtual gaming hour over the past 2 semesters. And it was really wonderful to see students, although they just interacted on Zoom, to really build friendships through that. And so Spark is here for you, experiential learning. And if you're ever on campus, feel free to stop by and say hello and learn more. And with that, I'm going to pass it back on to Chris.
Thank you very much, Elise, Melissa, Dan, for sharing some of this information, your experiences, and your different programs. But at this point, really, we've left intentionally some time for your questions. So I'm hoping that our participants can use the Q&A function to submit questions for either myself, who are working in the admissions office of Boston University, Elise, Melissa, or Dan. So please, we'd love to answer your questions at this point about our programs or Boston University in general. There absolutely must be questions out there. So what I might do is, while we're waiting for some questions to come in, it might be helpful to, and I'll share my screen again, just to talk a little bit about applying for financial aid at Boston University. And that's such an important process for so many families thinking about applying to college and thinking about higher ed. Now, to apply for financial aid at Boston University, we do require that students submit 2 forms to apply for financial aid. The first is the FAFSA form. FAFSA is going to be required at most universities that students apply to. We also do have a requirement for something called a CSS profile form, which is a form that many private universities require. Submit both those forms, but for students who have applied for aid, Boston University has committed to meeting 100% of families' eligibility for financial aid for first-year students who are U.S. citizens. And you see the average financial aid package there. But another piece that is really good to know is that when students apply for financial aid, that financial aid package is geared towards being a 4-year award. Students only have to apply for financial aid one time. They only have to submit the CSS profile as an incoming first-year student. Now, if students are receiving some sort of federal program, like a federal loan program, maybe a federal grant program, students do have to submit the FAFSA form each year to be eligible for that. But that CSS profile form only is required one time. And about 8% of our financial aid budget geared towards merit-based scholarships. There are two merit-based scholarships that any student could be considered for. You have the Trustees Scholarship, which is a full tuition 4-year award based very heavily on your academic background, but also an additional essay that students would find through the Common Application or the Coalition Application. And then we also do have the Presidential Scholarship, which is a $25,000 4-year award, which doesn't require anything additional. There are no additional action steps for that award. We do have an earlier application deadline, December 1st for presidential and trustee, but since there's no additional action step for the presidential scholarship, any student who applies by December 1st will be considered. Now, since we are, sort of focused on science and technology here for students who are maybe part of a FIRST robotics program, we do have a FIRST robotics scholarship as well, which is a $25,000 4-year award, which does require a mentor or FIRST robotics coach to nominate the student for the award. Information about that can be found on our website. And we have had a couple of questions come in, and hoping maybe to pull Dan into for this question, since it's specifically sort of pointing towards engineering. But Dan, one of our questions is specifically about abroad internships for biomedical engineering. Can you think of examples or locations of students that have had that internship experience abroad within Eng?
The abroad program that engineering does that works an internship opportunity into it is our abroad semester in Sydney, Australia. In Sydney, so were you to go abroad in Madrid, Spain, we would have you would take three courses of our BU in engineering curriculum. It's actually our curriculum that the universities that we partner with teach. And then in Sydney, we would have, or in Madrid, we would have you do a culture course in a Spanish culture course, and then also a Spanish language course, because if you're going to live in the country, you need to speak the language. Well, in Australia, the language instruction is in English, so we don't need to spend those 4 credits on doing a language course. And then in that 4 credit whole, we put an internship opportunity. So you would be working in an Australian business in Sydney for biomedical engineering. I'm not sure exactly the specific companies that we partner with, but you would be doing biomedical work with a biomedical engineering company, perhaps doing a company that does, device creation or medical research or whatnot. But it's with a private company in the Sydney area for a 6-month internship or abroad experience rather.
Great, thank you. And then the next question that has come in is about research and, specifically students sort of finding opportunities as an undergrad. And, I'll say first, the undergraduate research opportunities program really does facilitate undergraduate research, whether that's making connections between students and faculty that share a research interest. But, there's also essentially a grant writing proposal or grant writing process for students to gain funding for research. Now, the question asks about first-year students or first-year undergraduate students. And I'll say really, for students coming into college, not just at BU, but anywhere, I think, a great first step in your first year is go and talk to your faculty and faculty members and ask about their experience with research and talk about opportunities that may exist around campus. Now, some, faculty that have labs on campus may want students to have reached a certain level of coursework. So, that may be a limitation for students coming in their first year. But, really, I think, an important first step is going and chatting with the professors on campus to learn about what opportunities in their labs may exist. But I don't know, Dan, for students in engineering, are there, do you have other sort of advice or, thoughts on first-year students gaining research experience?
I will say yes. So kind of echo what you said. There's certainly, do I know of some first semester or first year students, freshmen, who've come in and started working in a lab right off the bat? Yes, I do. But those are fewer than there are in your sophomore and your junior year. As you mentioned, professors want you to see, get to a level in coursework. The other thing is, like, your first semester at BU, your first year, like, we want you to get your feet on the ground and for you to get a good base under you. You get here in September and you're still trying to figure out where the dining halls are and, where you do your laundry and everything like that, and all your new friends and all your new clubs and activities, and are you going to play a sport or whatever it is that you're going to do. With that said, we have programs in the College of Engineering that incentivize professors into hiring undergraduates to work in their labs. I know many students who are currently working in engineering labs in all 4 of our majors here at Boston University. And the truth is that once you get in with a professor, they want to keep you because they don't want to train someone new every semester. So if you get in there as a sophomore and a junior, you typically you've got a gig for the rest of your kind of academic career, doing research, getting onto papers, helping to publish, all sorts of like really interesting stuff.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And, I will start to wrap up by inviting all of you to join us in future programs. Now, Boston University, we do have both on-campus and virtual programming happening throughout the fall and into the winter. We do have some open house programming as well approaching. I encourage you to come to our website, bu.edu/admissions, and take a look at the opportunities that exist for you to connect with us, on campus, virtually, and folks in the admissions office will be visiting high schools for the next couple of weeks as well around the United States. So please take advantage of that. You can email us at admissions@bu.edu as well if you have any additional questions or want to learn more. But I want to thank our panelists. I want to thank Melissa, Elise, Daniel for joining us, sharing more about their programs with all of you today. But thank you all very much for joining, and please be in touch if you have any additional questions at all. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Boston University for joining, and thank you all for joining us today at the CACHET Virtual College Fair. Just some quick wrap up. There's a quick survey that you will receive after closing this window. So please fill that out. And then of course, sign up for more sessions. There are a few more sessions being offered tonight. And as always, a recording of this will be available at strivescan.com/CACHET. Thank you all so much.